favor.
Now look at this. Jesus, it says that he was obedient to his parents. And because of the obedience to his parents, he grew in favor with God. Now, if we go now to John, when we read about the wine, when Jesus was at the wedding, what catches my attention is this. It's very interesting. That Jesus is at the wedding. He's minding his business. Everybody's having fun, drinking wine, enjoying the party. You know it must have been a good party if they ran out of wine. They were going in. But what catches my attention is that his mother comes to Jesus. Hey, can I use your property? You're the mother for today. You're the yeah. That's the mom. So now the Bible says that Jesus' mother comes to Jesus and says, hey, I ran out of wine. We ran out of wine. I need you to help. Now, yes, sir. Now, what's interesting is this, that Jesus comes and tells his mom, he says, Mom, my time ain't yet. But what catches my attention is not that. It's the fact that she walks away and she goes and tells the people, says, hey, do whatever he tells you to do. Now, what catches my attention in this is that when Jesus comes, knowing that it wasn't his time, but one thing he understood, that even though he is God, in his manly human nature, he understood that there was a law he couldn't break. So even though it wasn't his time, but he understood that if I don't do what she told me to do, I will break the law that was established from beginning of time. Meaning, I will go into disobedience. And if I'm in disobedience, I fall in sin. So now, Jesus, because he couldn't break the human law by being disobedient with his mother, he had to act in obedience. And it caught my attention because it showed me how careful Jesus was. And knowing not to break this principle that God put in place. Who is? Or who are you being disobedient with? A lot of times we don't understand. Look what's so powerful, and this is why the enemy fights a lot of times. Will fight a lot of times to cause these two things. The enemy will always fight to do two things. To cause you to live a life of disobedience with your parents, and a life with disobedience, but also your spiritual parents. Because just as the physical, also in the spiritual, you need somebody to release the blessing over your life. You see, a lot of times we get so caught up saying, but we don't, and it's true, we don't look to man or anything like that. But when we don't understand the laws that God has placed, then what happens is we will find ourselves putting that blockage of disobedience because we don't understand the power behind receiving the blessing. One thing I've come to learn, and my wife is here as witness, and I say this in the presence of God, that I have come to learn that there's two things that can unlock not only the blessings that favor for me here on earth, but also in the spiritual realm, which is the obedience to my parents and not only my physical parents, but also my spiritual parents. And I say this not boasting about me, but I'm boasting in Jesus and kicking the devil. You know where? Because he is a liar. One thing I'm very careful, even though many times I may have reason, but I prefer to shut my mouth and take the fault. Shut my mouth and take the blame. And in order for me to speak something that could curse my life. Because I understand that if I receive the blessing of my parent, it can unlock something here on the natural. If I receive the blessing of my spiritual parents, it can unlock something in the spiritual. So I know that I must be in obedience. Because if I am in obedience, just as Jesus, I will understand that I will win favor. And if you win favor, you receive blessing. See, a lot of times we don't need to be like Jacob trying to trick. But just being in obedience will unlock or could position yourself to receive the blessing. Obedience. Obedience. Don't allow disobedience destroy what God has promised you. Don't allow disobedience to destroy or keep away the blessings and hold back.